let's get into it. I'm buzzing, and I know you are too. We were just chatting before we hit record, but okay, welcome back to the Pleasure Playbook. Today's playbook that we have for you is one of our absolute faves. And this, if you were to be a fly on the wall, if you were to take either Steph or I's phone and go ahead and scroll our chat, this is one of the topics that would be popping out a lot in the chat. So today we're going to talk about blowjobs.
Oh my God. This is a conversation that is probably part of my daily life. Maybe not daily. It depends on what's happening in that phase of my life. But I think there's a lot that we can share. We can have fun. We're going to give insight in. And it's a topic that everybody wants to talk about. Maybe not. Everyone wants to know about, but not everybody wants to talk about. So let's get into it. Let's have some unfiltered, fun playbook on blowjobs.
Yes, I'm so excited. I was recently at a wedding and I was sitting beside someone I know but hardly, and she was getting drunk off of the free wine at the table, and then she and I started talking about blowjobs. And throughout the dinner, we shared some tips of how to make a blowjob better. And then the girl was so gassed up to go home and blow her man, and I was like, "Yes, this is how all of us should leave weddings, really excited to suck dick."
I fucking love it. And here's the thing about blowjobs too. I think this is what we want to get across to people is that yes, it is about the person receiving. The person with the penis is going to receiving and going to receive, and wow, that's going to be amazing. But here's the thing about blowjobs is that the goal, if we say that there is a goal, is for that the person giving the blowjob can enjoy it just as much as the person receiving. So this is what I never knew about blowjobs that I now know is that there are different positions, techniques, vibes, like different things that you can do as if you're a woman or whoever giving the blowjob. There are things that you can do so that you get enjoyment from the blowjob. And this is something that I try and tell all my friends, my clients. If we talk about blowjobs, we talk about position of blowjobs because that alone is transformational. Or I've found that myself, and pretty much everyone that I've shared this with has found it transformational. So we'll get into that. We'll open that loop. We'll come back to that. And we've had some funny chit chats about that as well, haven't we? Positions and drawings and diagrams and things that you have sent me about position that you've been in when you've given blowjobs. But let's first, I would love to share and for us to talk a little bit around our own journey with blowjobs to give some context because yes, we're on a podcast talking about blowjobs, but you don't just wake up one day or grow up and become this blowjob queen, loving blowjobs and being amazing at them. I feel like it is a real journey for most people. So are you open to sharing what your relationship with blowjobs is now and the journey that you've been on together?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that because what you were saying about the blowjobs being for the other person and an act of giving with little in return is how I used to think about blowjobs a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And I used to do them as the birthday gift or give it as a Valentine's Day present and not really ever have it as a part of my regular sex life because I just didn't enjoy it and I didn't feel confident in it. And it wasn't something that really brought me pleasure. But where it's grown into now is it's an act and piece of my sex life that I love because it gives me pleasure. And I love the act of it and I feel so confident in it. I feel really in my power and I feel really sexy. And that feels really delicious to me. So, yes, let's definitely talk about the journey because we don't just arrive being good. So, I remember the first time I attempted a blowjob, I was on the top bunk of the bunk beds that my sister and I shared. I was with this guy, and it was just a guy I was fooling around with, and I don't know if I gave my first ever boyfriend a blowjob or not. I'm sure I tried it, but it was probably either we were so young that technique didn't really matter, or probably, like, very little stimulation produced results, or I feel like too when you're just new to sex, you just want to have penetrative sex because you're like, that's the funnest thing to do. So I don't really remember having blowjobs really early in my sex life. But anyway, for some reason, this bunk bed experience is one of the first ones that's coming up. I remember being just so frightened going down. I went under the sheets and I was like, where am I going to even find the penis?
How old are you? I'm confused.
I think I was probably like I was in high school,
Okay.
maybe, I don't know, 16?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So this is one of the first things that I remember, and I don't know why that one's sticking out, but it is. So yeah, just I feel like a lot of fumbling, a lot of lack of confidence, a lot of I'm gonna do this because I have to
mm,
energy. We're gonna talk about energetics, I'm sure. But yeah, that was the piece of it for me was I really felt like I had to do these things or they were expected of me or to be a good girlfriend, to be a good partner, to be a good person someone's having intimacy with meant I had to do these things. And then I have some, like, really funny stories about, like, when I got, like, a little bit older, some I don't know if I should share those on the podcast or not, but, yeah, in high school, I got really known for sucking dick,
oh my
and that was
God.
funny, so I grew into a bit more confidence with it, or I guess someone that was willing or wanted to
Mhm.
suck dick and do blowjobs. That was a really funny chapter,
So
and
you've been the blowjob queen for a long time.
yeah, but I fumbled for a while, and it came from the wrong space. It came
Mm.
from a place of wanting to be chosen, and especially
Mm.
that time where, yeah, it was people didn't really wanna be with me, they wanted my mouth, and that
Mhm.
doesn't feel right, but, as a young girl, you're like, "Yeah, I want the attention, I want to be chosen, and I
Mhm.
wanna be the cool girl," so
Yeah.
that's a tender time, but also a funny time that I think of back on. And then, yeah, I would say it got into a devotional phase, and like I said, now where it really becomes my turn on as well. So, what about you?
Love that. And I love your, yeah, journey from a young age of loving to suck the dick. It's very different with me. I feel like our stories are just very, and our lived experience is very different, yet beautifully complementary. So for me, I couldn't even tell you like first experience giving blowjob. I don't know, don't really remember. My early sexual experiences were not empowered. I wasn't connected to my body. It was more of a similar thing of wanting to feel desired and feel chosen and fully letting that person take the lead and me being just like going along with whatever they took that lead on in terms of what we were doing sexually, if that makes sense. Like I wasn't like initiating things in any way. Was in relationships my entire 20s, to two long-term relationships that I had. And I can't even remember the dynamic between me and blowjobs. However, I never really enjoyed it. And I never felt confident because it's one of those things like you don't really know what you're doing, and there's not really like a blowjob school. There are now. You can buy courses and get educated on how to give an amazing blowjob. But back then, I didn't really know what I was doing and I didn't feel confident. And I was so disconnected from my sexuality that it wasn't something that I even cared to consider or learn about, or just didn't have that awareness. So, yeah, similar to you, something I would do when asked. Like, whenever my partner would ask me, I would do it if I felt like it. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, no, like, genuinely be like, I don't want to. And then that would suck for the partner. However, it all magically changed for me in 2021. There's a defining moment that I have where I fell in love with blowjobs because I experienced them in a completely different way and realized that I'd completely been missing out on what they could be. And that was where for me it flipped from being about this is something I'm doing for my partner because it gives them pleasure to realizing, holy fuck, this is something that can be part of my turn on and can be part of my pleasure as well. And actually, it is a very connective sexual act that's not just about one or the other. It's really can be equally as fulfilling. So I'll share a little bit about this. So 2021 I was in a very pivotal point in my relationship that I was in, and also was deep, or is maybe about a year into my own journey with sacred sexuality, exploring Tantra, and probably about 8 or 9 months after my first big sexual awakening. And I just had attended this workshop with my partner. It was the second one I'd done. The first time I did this weekend workshop around Tantra and intimacy was by myself. It was online, it was Zoom, it was in COVID. The second one, my partner and I had done together, and it was the most incredible weekend of connection. It was actually quite triggering in some ways between us. There was a lot of shit that came up, but there were some practices that we did around breath work and working with the pelvis and the throat and the connection between. And we were using these techniques that I later realized were helping to soften and relax my throat, yet connecting with the pelvis and opening and relaxing and just getting more into my body. So a week after my partner and I went away for a weekend, and I was able to deep throat for the first time in my life. And it was like after this workshop and the connection that my partner and I had, were in this beautiful, I felt so safe. I felt so loved. I felt so devoted to him and his devotion to me, security. And that was really powerful for the sexual dynamic as well. But yeah, I felt so good. And I was giving him a blowjob, and I got past where the gag reflex usually is. It was like I got past that point, and I was relaxing my throat. So as I was giving the blowjob, I was like moaning and making sounds and having my throat, I could feel my throat actually like softening and opening. So we were getting past the gag reflex and got it really deep. And I did find this pleasure point within my throat where it was almost like I could have had an orgasm from the throat. Like there was so much pleasure in the throat. And it was fucking mind blowing to me because I was like, holy shit, I've just unlocked the fucking secret that blowjobs can be. Oh my God, I'm getting tingles in my body. I feel like goosebumps. Blowjobs can be just as amazing for me giving as receiving. And the pleasure I received from seeing how much pleasure my partner was receiving from me being in pleasure was such a turn on and was so incredible. So that really changed the game for me with blowjobs because I realized there was a lot that I didn't know. And then fast forward to the last couple of years and even this last year, like being in my single in my 30s, in my sex queen era, I have just had a whole different relationship with blowjobs. And with blowjobs, I feel like we're going to have to talk about cum.
Yeah, of course.
Like, yes, of course. So this is also interesting. This feels a little bit edgier, but I always was my whole life was a spitter. Like when I would have cum in my mouth, I would literally run to the bathroom and spit it out. I could not get it out of my mouth fast enough. Not the case anymore. Not the case anymore. Like I've really found this place of enjoyment and pleasure and like such turn on with it that it's like part of it. And I think that feels really beautiful to me. Obviously, only if I'm with a partner that I feel like very safe and very connected with. And really, there has to be that emotional safety. Otherwise, there can't be that amazing sexual experience because really that emotional safety is at the foundation of that. But yeah, it's changed my relationship with blowjobs, with cum, with everything. Like now, I just find it amazing. And my new thing is my new goal for my future partner is this is how I feel. Let's not take this the wrong way, but I'm like, if I don't want to suck his dick every day, he's not the one for me. Like, if I don't feel that urge of, oh my God, like I want to be giving him a blowjob all the time, which obviously it's not going to happen every day. You're going to go through ebbs and flows. There's going to be periods of your life where you're not even having sex because of shit happening. Totally normal. I'm not saying I'm actually going to live in a world where I'm giving a blowjob every day, but maybe
The
there'll be phases
desire.
of that. The
Yeah.
desire, exactly. And so that's like my new thing. And that's how I'll know. That's not how I'll know, but that would be part of it. Of do I feel that way about him because I've had that experience with some partners, like sexual partners and people that I've been in dynamics with over the last year, where I've really felt that way. And that feels really good as somebody who dick was being whipped out by a long-term partner and I'd be like rolling my eyes and thinking about all the excuses of how I could get out of having to put that thing in my mouth to like fantasizing about it. It's really fantasizing about it and like really yearning and desiring to have that. And I think what an incredible place to enter a dynamic with someone and how amazing for the partner to receive from someone like that. So that's my story. There's a lot more I can share. What have you got to say about that?
Yeah, as we move through, I'm sure more stories will come out, but I think that's important, the piece about the come, because two, I think is what you wire it as, right? So if the experience is pleasurable and then the end result is the come, and then that's the way you end the experience, and that taste then gets associated with a pleasurable experience.
Mm.
Whereas I think for a while, like I know for myself, if I was giving a blowjob from a place of I had to, or this was necessary, or whatever, a means to an end, and then it got to the come piece of it, and then there was resentment, or there was an emotion
Yes.
that wasn't, I felt used, or there was a little bit of stickiness with that. And then the flavor is the end note, right? And it's like not a very good dessert in that sense.
Yeah.
But I feel like with flavors, they're so attuned to emotions, and our senses are such a part of our emotions, right? So when you're in a pleasurable, blissful state, even something that would be maybe quote unquote not as tasty to you, like outside of like sexual energy or arrows moving through, can be desirable in that moment.
Mm.
And yeah, in the sexual act, cum will be really exciting to me, but if I'm like, I don't know if I wanna say that.
Please say it. Say it.
But if, like, you have cum in a condom, like, in a trash, and then I'm, like, empty the trash, and obviously it's, like, like, it's a little bit of old cum, but, like, the smell of cum in that state and time, I'm, like, a little bit gagged by. But
Yeah.
then in the moment and when I'm turned on, I really like the smell and the taste of it. So it's one of those things where it
Contextual.
depends on the state your body's in, and I just wanted to say that piece about
Mm.
scent and taste and memories and the energy that's happening or the emotion that's happening with it.
Such a good point. And when you were sharing that, before you even said the word resentment, that was the word that was coming up for me. Is it's not even a conscious resentment. However, it's such a deep
Yeah.
thing that you are doing it from a place of have to. You don't really enjoy it, but it's somewhat expected of you. And you
Mhm.
can't keep coming up with excuses forever. If you're entering with that energy, like there is going to be some resentment. And so once it finishes, the last thing that you're going to do from that place is going to be swallow it and have that inside of you, that energy within you. You're going to be wanting to get rid of that as soon as possible. And I think that there's really subtle things that there's an invitation to get curious about your dynamic with these things and see, is there something bigger at play here? Perhaps like we're not sitting here telling you you need to go give blowjobs and swallow the cum. However, maybe there is an invitation to reflect, are you doing things from obligation and from resentment? And is that at play in a larger scale in your relationship that maybe you didn't have awareness of? Potentially. It's just interesting to get curious around how all of these things are connected.
Yeah. I will give maybe an example of a way if you don't wanna swallow that's, like, still really hot.
Oh, I love
We can talk
this.
about that because I totally get it. If it's not for you, if it's a no for your body, honor the fuck out of that. Yes, you have clarity that what's right for you. Yeah, definitely not saying that's how it should be or how it has to be done by any means, but there is something to be said, right, about if it can be transformed into a feel-good state for yourself, and if it comes from a place of you have safety with that partner, you have trust with that partner, like it feels like the way to end it, then that can be really hot, but it can also be hot in different ways as well if you decide to let go of the the cum at the end of it. And or have come somewhere else, right? Have your
Yes.
partner ejaculate somewhere else other than your mouth in the
Yeah.
end of the blowjob. It can still be an incredible blowjob.
Totally. And I think two things here. One is that the best way of doing that is being like, I would really love if you would come on me here versus don't. I used to be like that. Do not come in my mouth. That's not the nicest way to say that to a partner whilst they're in the pleasure area. But the second thing is, Jenna, do you actually remember like when I was newly single, I remember texting you before I had my first experience being like, do you spit or swallow? And this is where it started. And you were like, swallow. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, "Wait, let's pop the trunk here. Tell me more." And we got into this conversation. This is why, because I was actually scared because I was like, I can't, like, I have to spit it out right away. And I was fearful about going into a new dynamic with someone that I was dating. And I'm going to have to run to the bathroom and this guy's going to be like, what the fuck is she doing? Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, I remember that clear as day. Yeah, and I wasn't always for sure. And I do wanna preface this whole conversation with I have a really my gag reflex is triggered so easily. I have a really sensitive tummy. A lot of things really bother my stomach, and I have a fear of vomit, an immense phobia of vomit. I'm not really set up for success when it comes to blowjobs, but I do really love them. So I just want to preface this whole conversation with if you struggle with any of the components of this, you can move through them too.
Yeah, for sure. I
Mm.
think it's just taking that, I think it's that approach of curiosity here. And this is what I find so fascinating is we can have a view around something and have a belief and have a relationship with anything in life as one way for so long. And then when we take that approach of curiosity and openness and exploration, sometimes we can see that if an ingredient is changed, that the entire relationship to that thing is changed. And so that's
Mhm.
what I think is really powerful to know here. We're not saying that blowjobs have to be done a certain way. Maybe you just don't like giving them. That's okay. But maybe it's that you don't feel safe with your partner. Maybe you built up resentment with him. Maybe you don't fully trust him or you don't feel safe around him. There's so many elements here. And that is what I want people to get is that there's so much more than these sexual experiences. There's always larger things at play. Safety and trust and that intimacy, which comes from the safety and trust, are at the foundation of it. So whenever there is a sexual challenge or a trying dynamic with something sexually, we can look at the surface level and also go a lot deeper to explore, is there something else at play here? And could that whole relationship be shifted if you shift that larger piece? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, very complex. So
Mhm.
curiosity is the best approach.
Yeah, I love that invitation for curiosity because, yeah, I think sex can be such a landscape for healing and meeting new edges within yourself. And then it's also a way of tuning in with the body for answers that maybe you don't have yet. Like, for instance, you could love giving blowjobs with one person and then it being a clunky, awkward, you don't feel open and receptive to the next partner that you have. And what is that? What is your body trying to show you
Mm.
within that? What is your body trying to show you that your mind doesn't know yet? And I think that all those inquiries, our body is so wise, and all of us have this wise body inside of us, right? That we get to
Mm.
tune into the cues of, and we learn so much more about ourselves through that.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally. One thing I'd love to share just on that thread of safety, which has been really fascinating to me over the last year, having had a couple, a few different dynamics I've been involved in the last year. Some from like not seriously, but dating somebody for a couple months to having more of a friends with benefits type scenario with somebody who was very sexy, but there was no depth, to a couple other different dynamics. The thing that's been incredible for me to notice is when I don't feel that safety. And it's not from anything that's said or done. It's from not having safety in the container of what the dynamic is, knowing that there's nothing, it's not even that there's nothing more coming, but that there's not enough communication and we're not on the same page, even if it's a casual thing. There still has to be clear containers and boundaries and communication. So it's been interesting for me to notice how that impacted my sexual experience, my pleasure, and my ability to orgasm with those different partners. Because I can usually orgasm relatively easy. It's not, luckily for me, orgasm hasn't been a challenge of something I've had to work on that much throughout my life. Very grateful for that. However, it's been interesting to notice, like with a certain person after a certain amount of time, where I'm in my head thinking, is this actually serving me? Do I feel this safety in the container? Once the answer started to get no, the pleasure of sex went way down and the orgasm became non-existent. It became impossible for me to orgasm. And that, to me, my first instinct, obviously the work I do, is not I'm broken, what's wrong with me, why can't I get there, why is it not he not turning me on anymore? It was like, what has shifted here? And it's, I don't feel that emotional safety was the answer for me. And that was the clear cue from my body to end that dynamic, because I wasn't getting from it what I desired. It was no longer filling me up. So I just thought I'd share that because it's interesting, because I think that default is what's wrong with us. Like, why am I not working? Am I broken? And sometimes there are so many different factors that can be part of that. And also sometimes it's actually the person that you're with or the environment. Maybe you don't feel safe in your home, number of different things. So thought I would
yeah.
share that.
Yeah, and on that topic of not being good at something or feeling like it's on you, like the brokenness is on you, made me think of this other piece that I don't know if we really talked about adding into this, but I want to give it some time at this moment. And that is that to be really good at a skill, especially with one specific partner, there has to be that communication. And so there's that safety is the massive ingredient. And then the other massive ingredient is communication. And most of us know from a receiving standpoint, when someone goes down to give you oral, you may have to direct them a little, right? Of this is the pace I like, this is the spots I like, this is what I want in addition to the tongue or the kissing or the sucking. And there has to be a dance that you do with the partner, right? That creates this magic of pleasure and of something that works for your body because every body is so unique, right? And so when you learn foundational skills, like maybe from this podcast, you'll take away a couple tips or things that you're going to be like, okay, I want to try this or whatever. But then you're also going to need to add in the ingredient of talking to your partner and asking them what's working and having that dialogue, which takes vulnerability from the receivers and the givers to be able to take feedback and not feel like they're wrong because maybe the pace wasn't great or maybe something was hurting the partner, or maybe the something didn't feel as good as it could have. I think women a lot of the time put a lot of pressure on themselves to figure it out, to know it, to have it nailed down and be good at something. But there is this piece of this whole pie that we're talking about that includes the partner's willingness to work with you together to meet a beautiful goal together, right?
For sure. And to add to that, I think it's even more scary to bring up that conversation and open the communication in a long-term relationship when you've been together for a long time
100%.
and you've been doing things a certain way and you haven't been speaking up and you haven't told them what you like and you haven't asked for feedback and you haven't been having these conversations to then come in and be like, hey, actually, I want you to try this or I'd love to explore that. That takes a lot of courage. And that is actually, I think, scarier than entering a new dynamic and setting the scene from the get-go because there's less at stake in many
Yeah,
ways. So just want to acknowledge that it's totally possible. And we acknowledge that it's not an easy conversation to start if you're not used to having those conversations and communicating in that way.
100%. Yeah. I've been there myself and it is so hard, especially when you've been doing something for a certain way for a while. You've been having a certain type of sex and then you want to change something up. It is so vulnerable to say
Yeah.
that. Okay, do you wanna talk about energetics behind or, like, the intention behind the blowjob before we get into kind of techniques and
Yeah.
tips? I just wanted to speak a little bit about the intention and having the energy behind it, which is really important. I just wanna clarify this because 'cause we've danced around this a little bit, but I just wanna make it clear and succinct that the energy that you bring to the act, this sexual act, is really important, and the intention behind it, whether that be you want to be in pleasure with your partner, you want to give your partner pleasure, you want to have a playful exchange, you want to try a new skill, right? Having the intention come from a place that feels really magnetic and exciting and expansive rather than having the intention, the energy come from a place of, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this to be a good wife, a good partner, a good girlfriend, a good spouse, whatever. Or from the place of, I haven't done this in so long, I have to do this to keep my man, or like the energy there of something that you don't even really want to do, but you have to do it. And the invitation is there a way for you to pivot it towards something that does feel more expansive and more pleasant for you and your system to go into that activity and have more fun with it? Because the energy that you bring to something is definitely going to impact its end result for you and the person that you're engaging with in the activity. Do you want to add anything?
Yes, I really love that. And I think the energy can be shifted when you have more confidence in what you're doing. And then the confidence can often come from the education and the awareness around different things that you can do. Because if I think back to the way I used to be, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And I didn't feel confident because I wasn't confident in my skills or confident in my own sexuality. And I wanted to just get it in, get it out as quickly as possible. I didn't feel confident to ask my partner, hey, what do you like? Or tell me, because I thought if I did, that's me showing that I don't know what I'm doing. And in actual fact, that's a really sexy approach to be like, tell me what you like. I want you to tell me the way you like it. Because not everyone likes it the same.
Yeah.
Some guys like to have their penis like bitten, some guys don't. Some guys like to have their balls like sucked and squeezed really hard. Some guys, you have to be really soft and like delicate. It's not a one size fits all. Okay. It's really not. Yeah, there are some techniques that are going to work across the board to a certain degree, but pressure and strokes and different ways that you're using your tongue can be very individual, and is also more things that you can do as well. So it's not just about the mouth and the hands, but there's that presence that you bring. If you're giving a blowjob and you're thinking about the chicken that's in the oven, or like how many minutes until this is over with, how quickly can you make him come so this is done? That can be felt. There's so much with our energy and with our presence. You can feel if a guy is going down there and if he doesn't want to be there. Like, it's very obvious, that energy and that presence from him when he is giving you the signals. I could be down here all day and I don't care how long it takes. And yeah, they can say that through words, but you can feel the difference. And it's the same thing, goes both ways.
I love the piece about education because I think that's so important. And myself, I've taken multiple like multiple master classes, education books on oral specifically. So my place of getting like raving Yelp reviews now from this activity is because I've honed this skill, because I've played with it, because I've been in this arena with it to develop it. And I think anything that we want to be good at does take a little bit of intention and time and education, and so that you can develop that skill. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that my blowjob started becoming much more enthusiastically received when I came from the place of, like you were saying, from me and my pleasure, where they could tell my enjoyment to be there in that space, right? For me, it felt authentic to moan at times. And that response would like been the experience that was how it was happening, right? It would allow that partner to exhale, to be like, okay, I don't have to rush. I don't have to feel on edge. I don't have to feel like I'm taking too long or whatever it is. I can tell that my partner is present with me. And I know as a receiver, when I know the partner is enjoying, they're okay, they're comfortable, they're like getting turn on from the experience of giving me pleasure, I can really lean back into it and be like, okay, now this is where I can orgasm, or where I can
Mm.
really get into a pinnacle of bliss. Whereas if you can't really tell, there's no communication, you don't know if they're liking it, you don't know if they're like, the dirty talk is so helpful too, right? Like, you taste good, like the affirmations that happen there can just allow it to be such a more rich, easy, fluid experience, right?
100%. And you reminded me of what I wanted to say, and that's before you even start the blowjob, it really starts before that, and it's the kissing and the touching their body and being really present with your strokes, and almost like that tease and build up that they know that it's coming, and you are just giving them your full attention and awareness, and you're really feeling every part of their body and even their legs. Like, for so long, I was just going straight to the dick and not engaging in any of the rest of the body, the ears, the neck. Like, they fucking love that. But then really feeling like their legs and stroking them. And every man likes it different. Some men love a tease. More muggle men don't like the tease, is what I've discovered. Like, they're like, get right to the D, versus yeah, I found more like spiritual and openly sexual men enjoy that tease a little bit more. That's been my experience. But then when you get to the penis, you're taking a moment and really taking it in and really feeling it and touching it and kissing it and stroking it and then giving them compliments. People with penises like to also receive compliments and admiration, and for you to say, wow, your cock is so beautiful, it's so big, or whatever you want to say. That is makes them go wild before you've even done anything, and you're just showing that presence as well, complimenting them, because I think most of us have had some insecurities around our genitals or our body at some point in our life, and it's the same thing for men. It's not big enough, it's not long enough, it's too curved, it's too thick, it's too whatever. There's all of these too much or too little for all of us, and to just tell someone like, I see you and it's beautiful and it's amazing before you go into that pleasure, again, goes both ways, is really powerful. And then the second piece to distinguish a little bit further from what you said is the difference between embodied versus performative. And everything that we are talking about in our approach with sexuality is to move away from performance and into embodiment and an embodied pleasure, intimate experience. And for most of us, we grow up with this world of porn where we see performance and it's fucking fake. And what actually we're talking about is how you can be so embodied and connected to the experience that the moans are so authentic and so natural, and you can't help but let them escape from your mouth because it is really true to you. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about you being so excited for your man to get home to rip his trousers or pants off, to get down on your knees. And we're going to talk about the knees thing in a second. Doesn't have to be, but this is the way I like to do it. Get down on your knees and to worship his cock and give him pleasure, because that turns you on so much and it's embodied and you are truly in the experience. That is what we're talking about. So very big difference between performative sex and embodied sex.
Mic drop. So good.
So let's talk about different positions and ways that you can give a blowjob and how much of a difference this makes as the person giving. If this is the only thing that you take away, this has the potential to change your relationship to blowjobs. I used to only ever give blowjobs with my partner lying down on the bed, flat, back is flat, receiving, and I'm on the bed. And I'm going to say this word because this is what you said, like a little gremlin trying to get into position.
I didn't say that, did I?
You did. That time you sent me the diagram and the picture, you were like, do you remember we had that conversation? I was like, what position were you in? And you were like, I was like a little gremlin, and you took a picture.
I remember sending you the video, but I didn't know I referred to it as that.
Because when the guy's like lying on the bed.
Well, like when she does
fucking uncomfortable. And then you get neck pain and stuff. You get the pain and strain, and then you're like trying to do the hands, but you're trying to prop yourself up as well as using your hands. And then they're like, then they're asking for something else, and you're like, fuck, this is exhausting. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. So basically, this is what we talk about. So that's the only way that I ever had experienced giving blowjobs. Because back then, I used to hate giving up control. I used to be a very controlling person, and I didn't like being told what to do. So had somebody 5 years ago said to me, get on your knees and give me a blowjob, I would have been like, fuck off. Probably because the partner was not right. The intimacy, the safety wasn't there. The trust wasn't there. We hadn't established that connection, and I wasn't embodied in my feminine sexual power, and my partner hadn't earned that right and trust and safety to be able to dominate me in a consensual way. I'm just going to start with that because context is important here, and safety is very important.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, the brat phase is so real for all of us. Like,
True.
go through that portal. Like the maiden, there's the brat that's so there, and it's like she doesn't want to be told what to do. So
very true.
That is a path. That's part of us.
It is, and I think it depends on the person as well. Brat phase with the right safe partner, beautiful, fabulous.
Both.
Yeah,
both pieces very important.
Very important. So that was the only way that I had given blowjobs, and I think that's the go-to is I'm going to lie down, I'm going to receive. Something that I discovered a few years ago was one on this journey of exploring and stuff and discovering that I had the desire to be dominated. And as I worked through my relationship with control and started to explore more of surrender and really trying to get to this place of surrender in life, and that's obviously tied to sex and orgasms and dynamic in partnership, is just no longer trying to control. I basically discovered that I didn't like giving blowjobs laying down, because for me, as a very feminine woman with the desire to be dominated by a man who's in his divine masculine energy that creates a safe container and can hold me, that felt too feminine. Like I felt a bit too in my masculine energy, and he felt too in his receiving energy. And the way when I'm giving a blowjob, sucking someone's dick, I want to feel like the submissive. I want to feel like I really want to feel like feminine, in my power, all of that. But I basically discovered that it feels better for me where we have that little bit of power dynamic. And for me, that's being on my knees in some form. That's having him like higher up than me and having him like consensually be in control to tell me to get on my knees, to gently push me down there. I really enjoy that dynamic. It didn't start off that way. It started off with me one time, I think, being on my knees, partner on the edge of the bed, giving a blowjob, and the whole experience was completely different. And I was like, whoa, that makes a huge difference. So I started telling people, I started telling friends, like having the conversation around blowjobs, like, how do you give blowjobs? And pretty much everyone was saying to me, partners lying flat on their back. And I would say to them, try do it differently. Try get on your knees, have him on the edge of the sofa, have him standing up. And the feedback from everybody was, whoa, it feels so different because that power dynamic completely shifts when you change the positioning.
Yeah, so hot, right? And if you're into power play or into those dynamics, that's gonna really resonate with you and be supportive to the eros that's in the moment. And from just a very practical place, if that isn't something that turns you on, they're just easier for your body. You're not resting your body weight like in a, like we said, the hunch over position where you're hurting your back, or like trying to be on your forearms or like your belly or something where you're like, you can use your hands more easily if your partner is sitting on the sofa and you are sitting kneeling on a cushion or something really soft and comfortable for your knees, and then you can use both your hands. That's just a great,
Yep.
easier position to you do. If you're from a standing position, there's easier ways to play with more of the body. Use your hands. Like, it's not as straining on the upper body. Now it is straining on the knees. Also, if you can't bend your knees, you can sit in a chair, and
Yep.
depending on your partner's height, have them stand on like stand in front of you. And if they're not high enough, you can also use something to elevate their height so that your knees are in a neutral position and you're not putting pressure on them, but then having your partner still elevated. So there's ways to work around that and have that same dynamic with the accessibility of more of your limbs to be able to use, because a great blowjob includes hands.
Yes.
100%.
Handsies. At least one hand, ideally two.
Yeah.
You gotta get all of it happening in there. I love that. I think the invitation for us to you is explore different ways of doing it and find what works for you. Being on your knees at the edge of the bed maybe isn't the best in your body, but just be open that there are different ways and different places in your house that maybe you explore. And your partner's probably going to be pretty excited if you're like, hey, I want to try giving you a blowjob in this new way today. As long as, I'm not going to say that. They're not going to care. They are not going to care if you are wanting to give them pleasure. They will probably take it in whatever way you desire.
Okay. Now I want to know.
No,
I
I
get
just
it.
didn't want to. I didn't want to come across the wrong way. I was just gonna be like, if you're gonna put their dick in your mouth, they're not gonna care what position
That's what we're
you're
gonna cut as the
in.
social clip.
They are
Okay.
not going to care. Men just fucking love it. Generalizing, not everyone does. A lot of men have their own journey in relationship to blowjobs. So whenever we're generalizing here, just please take that with a grain of salt because it's just not. It's just not the case. It's everything regarding sex and intimacy is so individualized and so complicated, so complex. And so there is no one size fits all, and any generalizations are not meant to be offensive in any way.
Okay. I have another position that I want to share, and I'm curious your thoughts on it because I feel like it's going to be a no ick for you, but I feel like because it's not in the power
Mm-hmm.
dynamic role, but it's really hot and it feels like way more comfy and cozy than a lot of other oral positions. And this is 69, but on your sides. So you're not like
Mm-hmm.
69 where one person is like resting their body weight and like holding their body weight above the other person, but you're both on your sides. You can flip your leg up like in a
Mm-hmm.
like a bow and arrow. I don't know. Lift it, and then you can both give each other oral at the same time. So if the power play doesn't matter to you,
Mm-hmm.
your time just want a good position, and you also want to receive while you're giving because that feels like fun. To me, it's overstimulating
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and I can't do that often because the position I like want to focus on one thing at a time for my
Yeah.
brain. But I'm curious what you think. Are you a 69 kind of gal, and would you do the sideways oral?
Okay, I'm not really a 69 kind of gal. I'll do it if my partner, if it really turns them on and they want to do it. I'm happy if it feels right in the moment. I'm happy to like let fulfill somebody's fantasy or desire. It's not my preference because I'm the same. If I'm receiving pleasure, like I want to be so focused on you and I want your mouth and two hands on my body. I don't
Yeah.
want just the mouth. I want the whole thing. Okay. And likewise, if I'm giving, I want to be so focused. I find it hard to focus on both, to be
Mhm.
in the enjoyment of the pleasure and feeling that in my body that I'm receiving, and be in the enjoyment and the presence and pleasure of giving at the same time. I find that really challenging. So yeah,
No, it's
it's
multitasking, right? Like it's
yeah, at its
splitting your
best, it's a lot.
yeah. And I feel like neither one's doing their full
Yeah,
capacity, like their
exactly.
best work in that
Yes.
environment,
Which
but
maybe
it's
is
playful.
yeah, it's like more of the position that's like the turn on than the actual act. So I think it's fine occasionally. I haven't done the sideways one. I'd be open to trying it, but again, I don't think that it would be my favorite. I'm
Mhm.
more of a like give and then receive, or
Mhm.
receive and then give and then receive, you know?
'Cause the asshole is also really close to your eyes, like, in that position.
Their asshole or
'Cause you're
asshole.
backwards. Both. Your asshole's close to theirs, and theirs is really
Yeah.
close to yours.
Yeah, I'm not like that keen on the asshole. But some men will freaking love that.
Mhm.
What's your take?
I haven't had a partner that has worked through enough of their internalized homophobia
Yeah.
to be willing.
Okay. And
I've been
what's
very open to the exploration, but I've been with partners that have had a real relationship to
yeah.
that I have a tender spot for, and I understand where it comes from, but they have to do that work through to feel safety in their body to access it. And we try and neutralize it as best I can, but in my sexual dynamics, I'm never the coach.
Mm, mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm never
Yeah.
the teacher.
No, it's not sexy to be. It's not. There's a time and a place. When you said it's a tender spot, I just was thinking like, yes, there is a tender spot right there.
Mhm. No, yeah,
Right,
emotionally
right.
for men, right?
No,
Yeah,
but I'm thinking the other way.
oh, yeah, the prostate?
Yeah.
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 I
But no,
mean,
I agree. It is. It's a very it is tender emotionally.
yeah. Are you willing to do ass play on men? Why are we talking about this? Like, we're not recording.
This is the conversations. Look, I'm in a phase of life where I'm open to trying anything and to exploring anything. And for me, I'm just in this place where I just feel so sexy and connected to myself in a sexual way and love to only be in dynamics with somebody who's that same way. And if I feel that safety, like I truly am more than willing to, if it feels like a yes in my body, live out any fantasy. Not that ass play is like a fantasy, it's pretty chill standard stuff sexually. But yeah, I haven't really done it. I haven't really done it with any partner because I'm saying like haven't had somebody that's really had that desire, but I'm pretty open to it. I have had a couple of partners recently that are obsessed with eating ass. Cheers to that. Cheers to that. Please, mom and dad, don't be listening to this. Just no, it's just not necessary. Okay. If you're
Yeah.
family, you have to promise us you're never going to talk to us about this
I
ever.
hope I didn't make it this far in.
If you did, please just don't reference it. If you're a friend, it's totally fine. We can talk about it any time of the day. But family,
Boundaries.
oh,
Pretend
I
you didn't
shouldn't.
listen. Okay,
Okay.
do you wanna share any other top of the nose, top of the tip of the tongue, what's that phrase? Techniques or things that you wanna share
Yes.
before we tell them about our
Lubrication is a
oh,
big one. And here's a fun fact that is if
are we talking
somebody,
about ass play still?
no, we're talking about blowjobs.
Okay.
Lubrication with ass play is fucking necessary. Don't be going up there.
Non-negotiable, non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. Absolute non-negotiable. No, but back to dick and mouth. Lubrication, when you're giving a blowjob, you really, the sloppier, the better. And it's so funny how men love sloppy blowjobs. The wetter, the more spit. Isn't it so funny that they love messy and wet? And it's if it was the same thing happening to us, we would be like, obviously it's like super wet when they're going down on us, but if a guy's, I love giving you like sloppy, oh, it's just like that word doesn't do anything for me, but multiple men will reference how much they love a sloppy blowjob.
Yeah, and the sound, like, it amplifies, like, to be able to
Yeah.
have the sound of the wetness, it's like it's also something that's imitated in porn, and
Yeah,
it's also
true.
in audio porn a lot, but so the sound alone is very arousing, so it
Yeah.
adds that element of sensory experience.
Yes. So make sure you're hydrated, brush your teeth, like fresh mouth. And also, I find that the deeper you go, the more spit that gets stimulated. So you have to get that spit like from the back of the mouth. Not the hog tour thing. We don't need to go. Did you see that TikTok?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, I'm like,
Um,
I didn't know if you're like on the socials like that on the
that's us
TikTok.
all over the internet at the
True.
moment.
But it's true. You have to get a little bit deeper to get that thicker spit. Then if you try and just get like the spit at the front, or if you struggle getting spit, you can always you could always have your man give you some spit for it.
Yeah. I'm a drooly person, so I'm never short on drool. So I'll give you that little tip then if you don't want to swallow, because this is on the theme of sloppy. So this is something that I've done that's been well received in the past. It's gonna sound like a bit edgy, probably, or a bit depending on where you're coming at this podcast from. But when someone comes into your mouth and you don't want to swallow, is drooling it back down onto the cock with eye contact and like
Oh.
gently massaging it back onto the cock and balls and allowing it to drip down your chin and lip has had some good reviews. So
Mm.
there's a little cherry on top for you.
I love it.
What do you think?
I love it. I love it. I haven't done that, but anything with eye contact is like, oh, and that's just another thing. This is a whole other episode, but a little bit of eye contact whilst you're giving head, they love it. Like you look up at them and they die, literally.
Yeah.
But it's like having that confidence, right? That you feel good, that you feel sexy, because it doesn't matter what you look like. If you're feeling sexy and your penis is in their mouth, that is very sexy. Doesn't matter what your hair looks like. It doesn't matter if you have eye makeup all underneath your eye. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. The right person, that safe person, like they're not going to care. So yeah, a little bit of vulnerable and requires that depth and vulnerability within ourselves so we feel open to
Big scene.
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it sound like a ghost?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's almost Halloween. Okay. How do we feel?
I think that's a lot that we've shared, and there's more. We didn't even go into specifics of really techniques because a couple reasons why. What we've shared here today is the foundation, and these are the things that you maybe haven't thought about, the techniques and the skills. Yeah, they're important. And also you need to have the foundation set. And it's just take curiosity and take that approach of finding what works for you and what feels good in your body and feel that embodied connection and pleasure from within as you're giving. The skills are the next piece. And
Building blocks.
yes.
Yes.
Alrighty, we're going to share.
Yeah, I think we should. Do you want to, or do you
So
want me to?
if you're curious is the theme, is the key word here. If you are curious about this conversation and you are open to learning more and you're intrigued and want to have a little bit more of a conversation or experience with Jenna and I, then we have something a little bit juicy that we want to share with you. And that is a masterclass around blowjobs.
I'm so excited. I feel like a more intimate group, a more private group, we can share a bit more of our own raw vulnerability. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into techniques, more positions, more ways to really feel confident and how to get to that space Steph was talking about where you feel really embodied in the experience. It's not performative. It feels like this is coming from you, an extension of your own beingness, an extension of your own desire. And so how do you drop into the energetics of that, right? Of this is something I desire to do and I am going to pursue it. I'm so excited.
We love it.
Yes.
And maybe we could invite our friends here into a little bit of homework, just home play, just thinking here.
Mhm.
What are like one or maybe 3 to 5 compliments that you could say to your man before you give him a blowjob? Because it's good to think of things like that ahead of time. In the moment, you
Yeah.
might be like, I don't know what to say in the moment. Think about it, brainstorm, have chit chat with your friends. What are some good, juicy words or compliments that feel true to you in your partnership? Partnership meaning like sexual partner, whether that's relationship or whatever the
Yeah.
dynamic is, that you could share and try those, weaving those in next time you feel like a fuck yes to give pleasure to your partner and try and find that pleasure within. So, love for you to share those with us. Have a little brainstorm together. You can share and inspire one another.
Yes.
All
Is
right.
that our journal prompt for today?
I think the next journal prompt as well is what is my current relationship to blowjobs?
And what do I desire it to be?
Yeah,
Mm,
there we
that's a
go.
good exploration.
Yeah. Get curious. And within those questions, whatever the response is to the first one, see if you can gain some insight or awareness around maybe where that came from. Is that from experiences? Is that from things that you've heard or seen or programming messages you received growing up? Just get curious. Take that word curiosity into it, whatever comes through in those prompts. Get curious, baby, and see what comes up.
Yay. Okay,
All
this was
right.
so much fun. I love
Details
this.
on the blowjob masterclass will be in the link in the show notes. So you can check everything out there. If you have questions, you want to share anything with us, send us a message. Clearly, we have a lot of fun talking about this. And this is genuinely a snippet into life. And just to finish this, I was at dinner last night with some friends and we were talking about sex, obviously. And I was like, do you want to see my last thing that I Googled? And it was throatgasms, how to have a throatgasm. And it was just funny. We were talking about blowjobs, and I was talking about my goal to have a full throatgasm. So keep you posted on that one. But genuinely, we love to talk about this, and would be great if we can just get to a space in life where we can all have these friendships and conversations where we get to have these juicy, enlightening, pleasurable chats.
Mm,
So
thank you.
enjoy. We love you.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening, and go have some fun. Bye.
Enjoy.